Some pain never leaves you. It only learns how to speak in silence. They say time heals everything, but no one tells you what happens when time takes someone you loved more than yourself. This is not just a story about a mother who lost her daughter. It is about a heart that refused to let go and a mind that could not accept the truth. Because sometimes, love does not disappear after death. It waits, it whispers, it calls you back into the darkness. I am Raven, this is Thryx. Let's begin. Tonight, we dive into a mysterious story that surrounds our main character, Dr. Ilana Mash, a woman caught in a web of fear, shadows, and unsettling truths. What happened to her wasn't just strange. It was something that tested the limits of the human mind. Stay with me till the end because every detail matters, and not everything is what it seems. The house on Millbrook Lane had stood empty for 3 years before Dr. Elena Marsh bought it. She told herself it was practical, close to the university where she taught psychology, affordable despite its size, and quiet. Perfect for someone who needed silence to write her book on trauma and memory. She told herself these things because the truth felt too vulnerable to admit. She was running from the ghost of her daughter. Not literally, of course. Elena was a woman of science, but Emma's absence haunted her more thoroughly than any specter could. 2 years since the accident, 2 years of mechanical existence, of lecturing to blank faces about cognitive behavioral therapy, while her own thoughts spiraled into darker and darker patterns. The house was supposed to be a fresh start, a place where Emma's memory wasn't embedded in every door frame, every photograph, every silent room. The moving truck departed on a gray October afternoon, leaving Elena alone with her boxes and the creaking symphony of an old house settling into evening. She unpacked methodically, finding comfort in the ritual of organization until she reached the 3rd floor. The attic bedroom was smaller than the others, with a single window overlooking the overgrown garden. Dust motes swirled in the fading light, and something about the room made her skin prickle. She almost turned back, almost closed the door, and forgot about the space entirely. But that would be avoidance, wouldn't it? Running from discomfort. She taught her patience better than that. She stepped inside. In the corner stood a tall mirror, its frame carved from dark wood with intricate patterns that seemed to shift in the uncertain light. She hadn't ordered a mirror. The house had been sold empty, the realtor insisted. Yet here it stood, impossible to miss, too large to overlook. Elena approached it slowly, her reflection emerging from the shadows. She looked older than she remembered, lines around her eyes, gray threading through her dark hair. When had that happened? She raised a hand to touch her face, and her reflection moved a heartbeat too slow. She blinked, stepped back. The reflection matched her movements now, perfectly synchronized. Exhaustion, she thought. The stress of moving. She'd read about perceptual delays caused by fatigue, the mind playing tricks. She left the room and didn't return that night, but she thought about the mirror, lying in her new bed, listening to unfamiliar sounds, the house breathing around her, pipes settling, wood contracting. She couldn't stop seeing that delayed movement, that fraction of a second where her reflection had been something separate from herself. You're a psychologist, she reminded herself. You know about grief hallucinations. You know about projection. The knowledge didn't help. She didn't sleep. The next morning, she told herself she would ignore the third floor entirely. But by noon, she found herself climbing the stairs, drawn by something she couldn't name. The mirror waited in the dim attic light, and this time when she looked into it, she saw Emma. Not her reflection with Emma's face, nothing so crude, but the way her own face arranged itself, the angle of her head, the set of her shoulders. It was exactly how Emma used to stand. Elena's breath caught. She moved, and the reflection moved differently, tilting its head with Emma's curiosity, raising a hand with Emma's delicate gesture. "No," Elena whispered. "No, this isn't real." The reflection smiled, not Elena's tight, controlled smile, but Emma's bright, open joy. Elena fled. She spent the rest of the day in her study, trying to work, trying to read, but the words swam before her eyes. She knew what was happening. Grief-induced hallucination. The mind creating what it desperately wanted to see. She'd written papers on this phenomenon, counseled patients through similar experiences, but knowing the mechanism didn't stop it from feeling real. That night, she dreamed of the mirror. In the dream, Emma stood on the other side, pressing her palms against the glass, mouth moving in silent words. Elena tried to reach her, but the mirror was ice cold and unyielding. She woke with tears on her face and Emma's name on her lips. She stopped going to the university. She told her department head she was sick. Not entirely a lie. She felt feverish, disconnected, as though reality had become negotiable. She spent her days in the house, circling closer and closer to the third floor, fighting the pull of the mirror while knowing she would eventually surrender. A week after moving in, she climbed the stairs at midnight. The mirror gleamed in the moonlight, and her reflection was waiting, but it wasn't showing her Emma anymore. It showed her something worse, herself, but wrong. The reflection's eyes were too bright, too knowing. Its smile was Elena's smile twisted into something cruel. "What do you want?" Elena asked the empty room, her voice cracking. The reflection's mouth moved, speaking words Elena couldn't hear but somehow understood. "To show you the truth." And then the reflection began to change. The image rippled like water, and Elena saw herself as she really was. Not the composed professor, not the professional who had everything under control. She saw the woman who had been too absorbed in her work to notice Emma's depression. The mother who had dismissed her daughter's pain as teenage melodrama. The expert on trauma who had failed to recognize it in her own home. She saw herself the morning Emma died, hurrying past her daughter's door without stopping to say goodbye. Too busy. Always too busy, and Emma had walked to school alone, had carried her unbearable weight alone, had made that final terrible decision alone because her mother, her psychologist mother who understood the human mind so perfectly, had been too blind to see. "Stop," Elena gasped, but the mirror showed her more. Every missed sign, every moment she'd chosen her research over her child. Every time Emma had reached out and Elena had been too distracted to notice. The truth she'd been running from unfolded in the reflection, merciless and complete. She sank to her knees, sobbing, and the reflection watched with pitiless clarity. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt elastic in that room, stretched and distorted. Eventually, Elena's tears ran dry, leaving her hollow and raw. She looked up at the mirror again, expecting to see more accusations, more failures. Instead, she saw Emma. Not her reflection wearing Emma's mannerisms, but Emma herself, clear and solid, looking back at her with those familiar, gentle eyes. Emma, who had her father's quiet kindness and her mother's sharp intelligence. Emma, who had loved poetry and hated injustice and felt everything too deeply. "I'm sorry," Elena whispered. "I'm so sorry I didn't see. I'm sorry I failed you." Emma didn't speak. The reflection couldn't speak, but her expression held something that might have been forgiveness, or perhaps just understanding. And then, slowly, Emma shook her head, not in denial, but in gentle correction. She pressed her hand against the glass, and Elena understood. "You couldn't have saved me. That guilt you're carrying, it isn't truth. It's the story you tell yourself because it's easier than accepting that sometimes there are no answers." "But I should have known," Elena said. "I'm supposed to understand these things." Emma's reflection tilted its head, and Elena heard her daughter's voice in her memory. "You're human, Mom. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep trying." The words Elena had said to countless patients, countless people drowning in their own guilt and self-recrimination, the wisdom she could offer everyone except herself. She stood on shaking legs and approached the mirror. Her own reflection was back now, showing her exactly as she was, middle-aged, tired, grief-stricken, but still here, still alive. Still capable of healing if she could forgive herself for being human. She touched the glass, and it was just a mirror, just silvered glass and carved wood, reflecting light and shadow like mirrors do. The supernatural dread that had filled the room was gone, leaving only sadness, deep and real, but no longer devouring her from within. Elena understood then what the mirror had been. Not a haunted object, but a confrontation with her own mind. The house hadn't been haunted. She had been haunting herself, projecting her guilt and grief onto glass and shadow, because facing it directly felt impossible. The horror wasn't in the mirror. It was in her own refusal to see herself clearly, to acknowledge her humanity, her limitations, her right to grieve without drowning in self-blame. She spent the rest of the night in that room, sitting on the dusty floor, letting memories of Emma wash over her. The good ones and the painful ones, the moments of joy and the signs she'd missed. All of it. She let herself feel everything she'd been running from, and though it hurt more than anything she'd ever experienced, it was real pain, the kind that could eventually heal. As dawn broke through the attic window, Elena made a decision. She would call her old therapist, the one she'd stopped seeing because she'd convinced herself she didn't need help, that she could process her grief alone. She would reach out to the grief support group she'd been avoiding. She would do for herself what she'd spent years telling her patients to do. Face the darkness instead of fleeing from it. Seek connection instead of isolation. Accept help instead of pretending to have all the answers. The mirror remained in the attic room, but Elena covered it with a sheet. Not to hide from it, but because she didn't need it anymore. She'd seen what she needed to see. Weeks passed. Elena returned to teaching, but differently now, more gently, with less certainty and more compassion. She joined the support group and spoke about Emma, sharing both her love and her regrets. She learned to sit with her grief instead of being consumed by it, to honor her daughter's memory without being destroyed by guilt. The house on Millbrook Lane remained old and creaky, prone to strange sounds at night, but it was no longer frightening. It was just a house where a woman lived who was learning, slowly and painfully, to forgive herself. And sometimes, in the quiet moments, Elena would remember the night in the attic and understand its strange gift. The mirror had forced her to see herself truly, not the perfected version she'd been trying to maintain, but the flawed, grieving, deeply human woman beneath. It had shown her that the most terrifying haunting is the one we create ourselves, the horror we construct from our own unexamined pain and relentless self-judgment. The real monster had never been in the mirror. It had been in her refusal to look honestly at herself and accept the help she needed. And in seeing that truth, however painful, she had found the first step toward freedom. Reflection. The deepest horror isn't found in haunted houses or cursed objects, but in the prisons we build inside our own minds. The guilt we nurture, the grief we refuse to process, the forgiveness we withhold from ourselves. We can become so trapped in our own narratives of failure and inadequacy that we create monsters where none exist, projecting our internal suffering onto the external world. But there is a path out, through honesty, through vulnerability, through the courage to see ourselves clearly even when that vision is painful. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is admit we don't have all the answers, that we need help, that being human means being imperfect. In that admission lies the beginning of healing. The mirror will always show us the truth if we're brave enough to look. The question is whether we'll run from what we see or whether we'll accept it, learn from it, and finally, gently let ourselves begin to heal. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this mysterious journey, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. For more thrilling and thought-provoking stories, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave.